Ethan lived alone at the edge of the forest. No neighbors, no noise, just trees, birds, and the wind. He liked it that way. He hunted for food and made traps to catch animals. But one day, something very strange happened. Something that would change everything. That morning, the sky looked normal. But Ethan noticed a strange sound during the night, like a thunderstorm, but there was no lightning. He shook his head and walked into the woods to check his traps. The first trap was empty. So was the second. But when he reached the third trap, he stopped. His eyes grew wide, and his heart skipped a beat. A girl was lying in the net, but she was not normal. Her skin had a soft silver glow. Her hair floated like it had no weight. Her eyes were large, too large and bright blue like stars. She saw Ethan and screamed, not with words, but with a sound like music and fear mixed together. Ethan raised his hands to show he meant no harm, but she curled into a ball, shaking. What the hell? Ethan whispered. He had seen wild animals, snakes, even bears, but never a glowing girl from the stars. Was this some kind of joke, a movie set? But the fear on her face was real, too real. Ethan slowly took out a knife. The girl gasped and closed her eyes tight, but he only used it to cut the net. She fell to the ground and tried to crawl away. Her leg was hurt. Easy, Ethan said softly. You're safe. Of course she didn't understand. She looked at him like he was a monster, and then pointed at her mouth and made a biting motion. Did she think he was going to eat her? Ethan sighed. No, I'm not going to eat you, he said. But how could he explain? He picked her up carefully. She was light, almost like feathers. She tried to resist but was too weak. Ethan brought her to his cabin and laid her on a bed. He gave her water and some fruit. She sniffed it, touched it with glowing fingers, then took a bite. Hours passed. She stayed silent, her eyes never leaving him. When night came, Ethan sat by the fire, watching her. She pointed at the stars through the window, then at herself. Then she made an explosion motion with her hands, and then a falling motion. You crashed here? Ethan asked. She nodded slowly, and then drew something in the dust on the floor. A shape like a ship, and then 3 more shapes following it. She looked scared again, and pointed outside into the dark forest. Ethan understood one thing clearly. She wasn't alone, and whatever was coming, it wasn't friendly. Later that night, when Ethan was sleeping, a small noise woke him up. He looked around. The bed was empty. She was gone. He ran outside with a flashlight. The forest was dark and cold. Hey, wait! He called, not knowing her name. But then he heard something else, a strange clicking sound. Not human, not animal. He turned the light in that direction and saw 2 glowing red eyes watching him from behind a tree. He stepped back slowly and then felt a hand grab his arm. It was her. She had come back. She pointed again to the red eyes, her face pale with fear. Who was out there? Was it her enemy? Or something worse? Ethan looked at her and nodded. He didn't understand what she was. He didn't know why she had come, but he knew one thing. She needed help, and he was the only one who could give it. He led her back to the cabin and locked the door. The red eyes were gone, but something told Ethan this was just the beginning. Something big was coming, and the girl from the stars. She was the key to it all. Asterisk. The night was silent, but Ethan couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, watching the strange girl from the stars. She had fallen asleep on the couch, her chest rising slowly. Even in sleep, she looked worried, like her dreams were not safe. Outside, the wind moved through the trees like whispers. But Ethan's mind was louder, filled with questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? And what were those red eyes in the forest? Morning came slow and cold. Ethan made some warm tea and placed it near her. When she woke up, she flinched at first, but relaxed when she saw him. Her legs still hurt, but she could walk now with help. He pointed to himself. Ethan. Then pointed at her. You? She looked confused for a second, then touched her chest. Riza, she said softly. Ethan smiled. Riza, a name from another world, But she looked human too human. Were all aliens like her? Or was she special? She pointed to the forest, then made a small hologram with a device from her belt. It floated above her hand like magic. Ethan leaned forward, eyes wide. The image showed a spaceship crashing through Earth's atmosphere. Then 3 more ships followed behind it. Riza tapped one ship in the image, then pointed to herself. That was her ship. She tapped the other 3, then shook her head. Bad, Ethan understood. She was running, but from who? Riza took a stick and drew on the floor. 3 figures tall, thin, with claws and no face. Then she drew a 4th figure, bigger, wearing a human mask. Ethan frowned. Wait, they can look like us? She nodded, her eyes serious. Ethan felt a chill. That meant anyone could be one of them, his neighbor, the postman, or even someone from town. Just then, a sound came from outside, not loud, but sharp like metal scraping against wood. Ethan grabbed his hunting knife and looked at Riza. She was already standing, alert, like a trained soldier. They moved slowly to the window. In the distance, they saw footprints, 3 toes, deep in the mud. Too big for any normal animal to. Strange for any human. We're not safe here, Ethan said. Riza pointed at the sky, and then at her wrist device. The signal from her crashed ship was still active. It was calling to them, her enemies. They had to destroy it. But first, they had to reach it, and the ship had crashed deep in the mountains. Far from roads, deep inside dangerous land. Ethan packed supplies, weapons, water. Riza added a few glowing tools from her belt. Before leaving, Ethan looked at the photo of his family on the wall. He touched it for a second, then walked out. The forest was different now, not peaceful, but watching. Every branch, every sound felt heavy. Something was out there. Hiding, waiting. They walked for hours, speaking in signs and eyes. Riza suddenly stopped and raised her hand. She touched a tree and felt something. Her skin changed color, blending into the forest. Ethan's jaw dropped. She had camouflage like a chameleon. Then they heard its footsteps, but not from behind, from the front. A shadow stepped out of the mist. An old man with a long beard and sharp eyes. Been waiting for you, he said calmly. Ethan stepped in front of Riza. Who are you? The old man smiled. I'm the one who's been watching the skies longer than you've been alive. He looked at Riza. She's not the first one, boy. Ethan was shocked. What do you mean? The man turned and walked into the trees. Come with me, I'll show you. Riza looked at Ethan and nodded. He followed the old man, unsure but curious. They reached a hidden shed covered with leaves. Inside were photos, books, and strange devices. One photo showed a younger version of the old man standing next to another alien different from Riza, but also humanoid. Many have come here, the old man said. Some friendly, some not. But this time, he looked serious. They're not just visiting. He showed them a map marked with red circles, points where strange energy had been detected. One of them was exactly where Riza's ship had crashed. The others were getting closer. Ethan understood. They weren't just searching, they were hunting. The old man handed Ethan a radio. If you find something inhuman, don't try to fight it alone. Ethan looked at Riza, then at the forest. He knew it was only going to get worse, but he wasn't going to let Riza face it alone. She had trusted him. Now he would protect her. Whatever was coming next, they would face it together. The forest was colder now, not because of the weather, but because of the feeling. Ethan and Riza followed the old man through narrow paths and fallen leaves. His name was Conrad, and he had lived off the grid for years. He wasn't crazy like the town people said. He was prepared. Inside his hidden cabin. There were tools, gadgets, maps, and books. Ethan felt like he had stepped into a secret world, a world where aliens were real, and humans were not alone. Riza sat near the fire, holding her wrist device close. She kept checking something, maybe a signal, maybe time. Ethan watched her silently. He had saved her, yes, but he still didn't fully understand her, and she didn't fully trust him, not yet. Conrad brought them food, simple bread and hot soup. Riza sniffed it first, then took a bite. She made a small face, then smiled politely. Ethan chuckled. Not space food, huh? She didn't understand the joke, but his smile made her smile too. Conrad showed them a box filled with strange parts. Found these in a field 10 years ago, he said. Pieces of broken metal. Too smooth, too sharp. Some of them were still glowing faint blue. Riza's eyes widened. She picked one up and scanned it with her wrist device. A soft tone played. And alien text appeared in the air. Stolen tech, she said, her English still broken, but clear. Ethan leaned in. Stolen? From who? She pointed to the stars, then to herself, her people. She pulled out a small cube from her pocket. It floated in the air and showed a picture of her world. Green skies, twin moons, and tall glass towers. Ethan stared, breathless. That's where you're from. She nodded, then swiped her hand over the cube, and the image changed. This time, it showed burning cities, black smoke, and strange ships in the sky. She pointed to one of the ships, the same shape as the ones chasing her. They had attacked her world. She escaped, but they followed. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He stepped outside and looked up. The stars were quiet, but his heart was loud. This wasn't just about Riza anymore. Earth could be next. Suddenly, he heard a sound behind him, soft footsteps. It was Riza, wrapped in a blanket. She stood beside him and looked at the sky. Then, slowly, she pointed to his chest. You. Kind, she said. Ethan looked at her, surprised. You think I'm kind? She nodded. Not all. Not kind, he understood. She had met others, humans maybe, or alien hunters, who weren't kind. But somehow, she trusted him. Even if just a little. She took out a small glowing crystal and handed it to him. For you, she said. He took it gently. What is it? She smiled. Shield. Ethan laughed softly. Like protection? She nodded and then did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his hand, just for a moment. It felt warm, electric, like a tiny heartbeat between worlds. But the moment was broken by a crack in the trees. Both of them turned fast, alert. Ethan raised his flashlight, but the batteries were dead. Riza's crystal started to glow brighter. She pointed it toward the woods, and a beam of soft light stretched out. Something moved, fast and low. Not a deer, not a fox. Too smooth, too silent. Conrad ran out of the cabin with a shotgun. Get inside now, he shouted. They rushed in and locked the door. Riza stood by the window, scanning with her wrist, then looked at Ethan, fear returning to her eyes. They found, she said, voice shaking. Ethan stepped closer. Who? She answered with one word, hunters. Conrad grabbed a box from under the floor. Inside was something strange, half-human weapon, half-alien tech. Been saving this for the right day, he said, loading the machine. That day's today. Ethan looked at Riza, then at the dark woods beyond the window. No more time for questions, no more waiting. It was time to fight. But he wasn't just protecting Riza anymore. He was protecting Earth. And slowly, deep inside, he felt something else too, a connection. Like fate had chosen them both, not just to survive, but to stand together, even against the stars. Asterisk lightning flashed across the sky, but there were no clouds, no rain, just light, and a sound like the air itself was breaking apart. Ethan stepped out of the cabin, eyes wide, above the forest. A black shape hovered silently, no wings, no rotors, just a shadow floating in the wind. The trees below it swayed like they feared it. Riza stood beside him, her wrist device glowing. Red, she spoke in her language, fast, sharp, full of warning. Then she looked at Ethan. They come, she whispered. Hunters. Inside the cabin, Conrad loaded the last of his energy shells. This isn't just a ship, he said. It's a scout. They're scanning. A loud pulse burst through the air. The ground shook for a second, then stopped. Ethan's ears rang. Birds flew out of the trees in all directions. Suddenly, the black shape shot upward and vanished into the sky, gone like a ghost. But the silence it left behind felt heavy. Too heavy. They know we're here, Riza said. Her face was pale. Her hands shook as she touched her device. The beacon was still active, still calling. We need to destroy that beacon, Ethan said. Where is it exactly? She showed him a small map. It was in the mountains, hidden inside her crashed ship. But the journey would take at least 2 days through thick forest and rocky cliffs. And they'll be waiting, Conrad added. Probably already watching, still. They had no choice. That signal was a target. As long as it pulsed, more hunters would come, more ships, more death. The next morning, they left the cabin. Ethan carried food, weapons, and the glowing shield crystal Riza gave him. Conrad stayed behind to slow anyone who followed. Don't worry, he said. I've survived things worse than aliens. Then he smiled. Probably. They moved quickly through the forest. Ethan guided the way with his map and hunting skills. Riza used her tech to sense heat and movement. Together, they were more than just 2 travelers. They were a team. At night, they camped near a river. The fire was small, but the silence was big. Ethan looked at the stars and asked, "Why do they hunt you?" Riza hesitated. Then she pulled up a hologram. It showed a planet not Earth covered in machines and fire. "My world," she said. "Hunters. Take, destroy." Ethan frowned. They want to do the same to Earth? She looked at him. Serious, worse. In the morning, they climbed a rocky cliff. From the top, they saw the crash site. Her ship was half buried in the ground, still smoking, still glowing. It looked like a broken bone in the skin of the Earth. But something else was there, a figure, standing near the ship. It wore a black suit, human-shaped, but when Riza saw it, she froze, her eyes wide, her breath fast. "That's not human," she said. "Hunter leader." Ethan raised his rifle, but Riza stopped him. "No use," she said. "Can read mind." Ethan stepped back. "What do you mean he can read minds?" She nodded. Knows fear, knows thoughts. They needed a plan, but time was short. The beacon inside the ship was still pulsing, calling others like blood in the water. Suddenly, the figure turned its head, even from far away. Ethan felt its gaze, empty, cold, ancient. The kind of stare that knew your secrets and didn't care. "Come on," Riza said, grabbing his hand. "We go now." They moved fast, hiding behind rocks and broken trees. The air around the ship felt strange, too still, too heavy. Ethan crept toward the hull. Riza tapped the metal, and a small door opened with a hiss. Inside the ship, lights flickered. Alien symbols flashed on the walls. The beacon was in the core, glowing like a heart. They ran to it. But before Riza could shut it down, a sharp sound rang behind them. The hunter leader was there. Inside the ship, no footsteps, no warning, just presence. Ethan pointed his weapon. "Stay back." The hunter spoke not with a mouth, but with his mind. "You protect the broken," it said. "You will fall with her." Then it attacked. Ethan fired, but the shots passed through it like smoke. Riza threw a device that exploded with light. The hunter screamed not in pain, but in rage. They used the moment to smash the beacon. With one final strike, it shattered into sparks in silence. The hunter faded into shadows, not defeated but gone. For now, Riza collapsed beside Ethan, her skin glowing dimly. He held her close. "We did it," he said. But she shook her head. "No, more come." Ethan looked out through the broken ship's window and saw the sky cracking open with more lights. More ships. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The sky above the mountains turned dark, not because of clouds, but because of the ships. 3 black shadows hovered high above, silent, cold, watching. Ethan and Riza ran from the crash site. The beacon was destroyed, but the damage was done. The hunters had found them, and now they were not hiding, they were hunting. Ethan's chest burned from running. Riza limped beside him, weak but not slowing down. They had no time to rest, no time to think, only time to move. They reached a small town by sunset. Ethan didn't want to go there, but Riza needed help, food, shelter, something, anything. The town looked normal. Children, Played outside, a dog barked, music played from an old diner, but it all felt wrong. Too peaceful, too quiet, like the storm hadn't reached here yet. Ethan knocked on a door. It opened, and a man stepped out. "Ethan?" The man said, surprised. It was Mason, Ethan's old friend. Mason had a small house near the edge of town, a good man once, but now Ethan wasn't sure. Still, he smiled and let them in. Riza hid behind Ethan, quiet and tense. Inside, they ate. Warm food. Riza only took a little, still on alert. Ethan tried to act normal, but he noticed Mason kept looking at Riza. Not with kindness, with curiosity. Later, Ethan stepped outside to talk with Mason. "I need your help," he said. "She's not dangerous. She's in trouble." Mason nodded slowly, but his eyes didn't match his face. He offered a smile, but something in it felt sharp. That night, as Riza rested in the spare room, Ethan sat by the fire. He looked through Mason's shelf and found something strange. A radio transmitter, open and warm. "Who were you calling?" Ethan asked, voice low. Mason stood at the door, his face now different, hard, cold, empty. "I called someone who can help," he said. "The government." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You what?" Mason shrugged. "She's an alien, Ethan. You think you're helping her, but they'll come for all of us. Better they take her than destroy the town." "You don't understand," Ethan said. "They're not coming to arrest her. They'll use her, torture her, and kill anyone who gets in the way." Mason stepped closer. "That's not my problem." Then he whispered, "They're already on their way." Before Ethan could move, 2 black SUVs pulled into the yard. Men in dark suits and helmets stepped out. No badges, no words, just weapons. Ethan ran to Riza's room, empty. She had heard them. She was gone outside. Lights flashed through the trees. Dogs barked, voices shouted, "Search the area." Someone yelled, "She can't be far." Ethan escaped through the back, his boots heavy with mud and anger. He found Riza hiding under a bridge, her body glowing faintly. "I'm sorry," he said, breathless. "I trusted the wrong person." She looked at him, eyes wet but calm. "I know," she whispered. "Not your fault." Suddenly something exploded nearby. A hunter had arrived, this one in full armor, larger, faster, not human, not pretending. It roared through the night like a machine full of rage. Ethan pulled out Riza's shield crystal. It glowed brightly, surrounding them in light. The hunter stepped back, confused. Riza used the moment to throw a device. It latched onto the hunter's chest and sent a shockwave. The hunter collapsed, but not for long. They had to run, again, through rivers, through trees, through silence and noise. Hours later, they found shelter in an old cave. Rain poured outside, lightning flashing like warnings. Inside, they sat close. Cold and tired, Riza leaned against Ethan's shoulder. "You could leave," she said softly. "Still time." Ethan looked at her, her hair messy, her eyes glowing in the dark. Even after all this, she was thinking about him, not herself. "I'm not leaving you," he said. "I don't care what they say. What they do, you matter." She closed her eyes for a moment, then smiled. A real smile, not a polite one. She reached into her pocket and handed him a small metal ring. "Bond token," she said. "Means I trust you." Ethan took it with care. It felt warm, alive, somehow. Outside, thunder rolled again. But this time, Ethan didn't flinch. He was ready, not just to run, but to fight. Because this wasn't just survival now. This was personal. Asterisk. The cave was silent, but not calm. Rain still tapped on the rocks above. Outside, the forest held its breath. Inside, so did Ethan. Riza lay still on the floor. Her glow was fading. Her breathing was slow, uneven. The crystal she gave him, her bond token, dimmed in his hand. She was dying, not from wounds, but from Earth. This world was slowly killing her. Ethan crouched beside her, panic rising in his chest. "What do I do?" he whispered. He looked at her wrist device. It blinked weakly, showing a red symbol. He couldn't read her language, but he understood the message. Time was running out. He wrapped her in his coat and stepped out of the cave. He had to move. He had to find help, but who? Then he remembered Conrad. Maybe he was still alive. Maybe he had something, anything that could save her. Hours passed as he carried Riza through the forest. She didn't wake. Only soft whispers left her lips. Words he didn't understand, but he could feel their meaning: fear, memories, goodbye. When he reached Conrad's hidden cabin, it was half-burned. Smoke rose from the edges. The door hung open. Inside, the walls were black with fire. But in the corner, Conrad, injured but alive. "She's still with you," he said weakly. Ethan nodded. "She's dying. Can you help her?" Conrad looked at Riza, then at a metal case behind him. He opened it slowly, revealing a small silver orb. "Stolen tech," he said. "Belonged to her kind. Portable gate." Ethan stared at it. "You mean it can take her home?" Conrad nodded. "Yes, but it's one way. One jump, one chance." Ethan looked at Riza, unconscious in his arms. "Send her back, save her life, but never see her again, or keep her here and watch her die." The choice burned in his chest. He sat on the floor beside her, the orb glowing softly between them. He spoke, even though she couldn't hear. "I never asked for this," he said. "I was just a guy in the woods. You fell into my trap, and into my life. You were scared, and I was confused, but now—" He looked at her face, pale and still. "Now I can't imagine this world without you." Her fingers moved slightly. She opened her eyes, just barely. "You must choose," she whispered. "Me or your world." Ethan felt a tear fall down his cheek. "I choose you," he said, "but I want you to live." Riza lifted a shaking hand and touched his face. "You gave me hope," she said softly. "I thought you would eat me." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "But you fed me life." He held her hand tight, then placed the orb beside her. A soft blue light wrapped around her body. Her skin began to glow again. She looked up at him, her eyes full of stars. "Come with me," she said. The words froze him. Leave Earth. Leave everything he knew and step into the unknown. Could he survive on her planet? Could a human even breathe there? What if he never came back? But then he remembered. He had nothing left here, only memories, forests, silence. But with her, there was something more. He grabbed the bond token and placed it in the orb's center. The light expanded, surrounding them both. Conrad stepped back, smiling weakly. "Go," he said. "Save her world." The last thing Ethan saw was Earth fading behind him. Trees, sky, clouds, all vanishing into white. Then silence, then color, green skies, twin moons, towers of glass and silver. And Riza, now glowing bright, alive. She turned to him. "This is my world," she said. "Now it's yours too." Ethan took her hand. His feet stood on alien soil, but his heart felt home. The sky was not blue, it was green, with streaks of violet and gold. Twin moons floated quietly above the alien city, and tall crystal towers shimmered under the light. Ethan stood on the balcony, looking out at a world that was not his, but somehow felt like home. It had been 7 days since they arrived. 7 days since he left Earth behind. Riza had healed. Her people had accepted him, mostly. Some looked at him with wonder, some with doubt. He was human, a creature of war, of instinct, but also of love, and that made him dangerous or powerful. Ethan trained every day. Their technology was different, but he learned fast. He wore a light armor suit now, powered by Riza's people, and on his wrist, the bond token still glowed brighter than ever. One night, Riza stood beside him. She held a device that showed a warning. A signal had been detected, not from this world, but from orbit. They followed, she said. The hunters, the same enemies. They had traced the final beacon pulse. Now they were here, not to find Riza, not to capture her, but to erase the entire planet. "They fear our bond," Riza whispered. "They fear what we are together. her world prepared for war. But they were not ready. The hunters had larger ships, crueler minds, and no mercy. They would not offer peace, only silence. Ethan stood in the war room with Riza and the council. They argued, some wanted to hide, some wanted to beg, but Ethan stepped forward. His voice calm but clear. "They won't stop," he said. "You hide today, they return tomorrow. We fight now." A long silence followed, then Riza stepped. Beside him, "We fight," she said, and one by one, the others nodded. They gave Ethan command of a squad, half alien, half rebel, a mixed team who believed in him. They called themselves the First Flame, because Ethan was the first human to bring fire to the stars. When the hunter ships arrived, they darkened the sky. Cities powered down, defenses rose. The final battle had begun. Ethan led his squad in a stealth ship, through asteroid fields, through enemy fire. He remembered every lesson from Earth survival. Instinct, strategy, but most of all heart. They landed on the main hunter ship, a flying fortress covered in shadows. Ethan fought like a storm, not with rage, but with purpose. One by one, the hunters fell. Not to alien weapons, but to something they didn't understand. Hope Riza joined him in the final chamber. Together, they reached the control core. The hunter commander waited. A massive creature, wrapped in darkness. Its voice thundered inside their heads. "You break the cycle," it said. "Human and starborn, joined by weakness. You will fall." Ethan stepped forward. "No," he said. "We rise." They fought like light and thunder. Ethan was wounded, blood on his face. But Riza protected him. He protected her together. They planted the fusion core, a final blow to end the war. But the ship was unstable. It was going to explode. Ethan looked at Riza. "You need to go." She shook her head. "Not without you." He smiled, tired but proud. "You gave me a reason to live. Let me give you a reason to remember." He pushed her into the escape pod, and with his last breath, he activated the core. Light swallowed the darkness, and the ship was gone. Back on Riza's world, the skies cleared. The hunter ships vanished, their link broken. The people cheered, but Riza cried. Weeks passed. A statue was built at the center of the capital. A human with a crystal in his hand, eyes fixed toward the stars. They called him Ethan the Flame, the human who fought stars, the one who loved beyond worlds. And in the night sky, sometimes, when the moons were quiet, a streak of light would pass, and Riza would whisper, "He's still watching."